Coming up on Chasing the Natty, it's Depth Chart Day, and we get to tell you what matters and what doesn't matter so much. We also get to talk about the biggest games of Week 1, and we also get to show you all the games that are going to be scoring a lot of points this week and the players you're going to want to start in each of those games. All that and more right after this.
Jones goes to the end zone. Oh, what a catch! Devontae Smith, touchdown, Alabama.
Watch out for Mr. Robinson. This kid is going to be special and is already flashing.
This is Chasing the Natty, a college football fantasy podcast.
All right, welcome. This is the Chasing the Natty podcast, a college football fantasy podcast. I am your host at CFF Xavier on Twitter, Xavier Hood. Alongside me, I have my host, Jared Palmgren at CFF Jared. Make sure you at him on Twitter for all your fantasy football needs, as well as me as well. But as you've heard in the teaser, we have a lot to discuss. It's Depth Chart Day, Jared.
So much to discuss.
Oh, yeah. And it's Week 1. We are officially in the beginning of the season, so many, a full slate of games from Wednesday to Monday, I believe, that we start the end of Week 1 is. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot to discuss. We're going to do a little bit of, the bigger games, a lot of the high scoring games to see who we should look out for, who we should start. But yeah, we'll just start off today. How's everything going, Jared? Week 0 is now behind us, and now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the start of college football season.
Oh, yeah. Like I said on the last show, it was a very nice teaser, a little bit of an appetizer for us in Week 0. Not a lot of close games, but, college football is back. Got to kind of get a little practice for ourselves in terms of looking out for players and everything like that. Got our minds straight after all of that. So now we get the main course. We get Week 1, and boy, oh boy, we got a lot of big games this weekend. I've been hearing a lot of people saying that it's probably the best Week 1 slate they've seen in years. And so, like I said, we're going to have plenty of time to talk about all that. But first is this. I completely forgot when I was outlining this show that today was supposed to be Depth Chart Day. This was when a lot of teams decided to release their quote-unquote final depth charts ahead of their Week 1 games. And so, Xavier, we're going to play a little game here. I've been scouring through a lot of these all day. Been keeping up with them. Thank you to Mike Bainbridge, by the way, over at the CFF site. I've been on his Discord basically all day, and that has been a great way for me to try to keep up with all the latest and breaking news over there. So if you haven't joined that Discord, it is worth every penny. You should absolutely be a part of it. But anyway, Xavier, I have a list of things here that I want to mention to you, and you're going to tell me, is this something that matters, or do you think that there's something else going on here? Okay. So the first things I'm going to mention here is that Chez Mellusi was labeled the running back 1 at Wisconsin, and Jalen Berger was labeled the running back 2. Now, obviously, for a lot of Jalen Berger stakeholders out there, this is devastating news because a lot of people were kind of taking him as a later RB1 if they didn't go RB in the first 3 or 4 rounds. So is there something to this, or do you think this is just we should hold on, not overreact to this? What do you think?
All right, we're going to pump the brakes on this one.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to have to stop and dissect this a little bit. It is very disappointing to hear that Jalen Berger did not get the start. Now, there's a lot of speculation. Is this more of a result of his injury, or did Chez Mellusi just outright beat him out? So it leaves a lot to question and ponder about. It's just Week 1. So this is just the Week 1 depth chart. Things can change. Things can happen throughout games. Things can happen throughout the season where Jalen Berger regains that RB1 classification, or Chez Mellusi can just outright just be the better back for Wisconsin this upcoming season. He is a senior, I believe. So he has that pedigree of knowing the offense a little bit more and having that seniority, while as Jalen Berger, even though he was a freshman last year, it was a COVID season. So technically he can still be classified as a freshman. So he has plenty of time to figure it out. he will probably be the RB1 going into the future years unless they find like another 5-star back in recruiting. But I think it's something noteworthy to say for week 1. It is a little scary for the people that drafted Jalen Berger. I know for the past few months we've all had Jalen Berger as like as a first round, or not a first round QB, but like a RB1 or maybe a RB2 in some leagues. And now that you're saying that he's not going to start, it's a little bit worrisome.
Yeah, no, I think it's very fair. Do you think it's fair for me to say to people that if you have Jalen Berger, find a way to make room for Chez Mellusi on your roster? Do you think that's a fair thing for me to say?
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, if we're all banking on Jalen Berger's talent, I will say keep him. But if Chez Mellusi, is that better back for Wisconsin this season, then you basically got the Jalen Berger replacement for Wisconsin Wisconsin running back 1. Now, if not, then he's an easy cut. And if you're doing a draft, you're always gonna have like maybe 1 or 2 easy cuts to make. So Chez Mellusi is definitely a guy that I would pick up.
What if it's 50-50 split? Or are you worried about that at all?
Yeah, that is another worry, another factor that I have to take in. If it is 50-50, then that's gonna have me a little bit more concerned. But I feel like with college football, it's so the great thing about college football, you have so many players. The fact that you can wait out the season and there's going to be a guy to break out. It always happens every season. Mm-hmm. And you just have to, be diligent and find that guy to replace Jalen Berger or Chez Mellusi. But I'm going to hope for the best that Jalen Berger, gets back into RB1 form, and maybe it'll be like 60-40.
Sounds good. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the next piece of depth chart news here, and that's Stephen Carr, transfer from University of Southern California, USC, whatever you want to call them. He was labeled the running back 1 on the Indiana depth chart today. Now, a lot of people, myself included, thought that Tim Baldwin Jr. would be the starting running back for Indiana to at least start the season, but it looks like Carr has already taken over that spot. So, Xavier, what are your thoughts here?
I think this is great. It's just a world of transfers to where guys are just, the better talent just wins now. And Stephen Carr, for him to come in and win that Indiana job outright, because there's no OR tag, I believe, for Indiana's depth chart.
I can double check that, but I do believe you're right.
Yeah, so for him to not have that OR tag and just be the better back, it speaks volumes to that. I will be a little bit hesitant about picking him up right now because it's not much that I know about Stephen Carr. Like, I know he played at USC. USC didn't have the greatest of backs, in the past few years, but they had talent. So to see what that looks like in the Big Ten, it just leaves some curiosity to be left out there for the season. I believe they're first. Who they play in week 1?
Iowa.
Ooh, that's a tough team. That will be a true test. So yeah, after week 1, if he ends up having a good game, then I'd buy into the stock because I believe Iowa's a great program to test to see if Stephen Carr has any value for the rest of the season.
I mean, I don't disagree with a single thing that you said just now, because that Indiana RB1 we saw with Stevie Scott about 2 years ago can easily become a very, very valuable asset for yourself. So I think if he does solidify that RB1, I did just look at the depth chart. There is no OR tag next to him or Tim Baldwin. So if he does solidify the majority of those carries, or at least plurality of them, I absolutely would be considering Carr for the future. Next piece of news here. This is less depth chart, but just more news in general, like roster news. Tion Dollard is officially out at Akron. There was a lot of speculation as the offseason went on. He had a felony gun charge, and there was talk about him maybe going to prison for some time, but he would be back later in the season. But now it is official that he is out. Akron has said that he is no longer a part of the roster. So Xavier, not that there's a ton to talk about here, but just any more additional thoughts here?
Yeah, once the news came out, the speculation came out early in the season. I believe it was back in April where we heard the news. His ADP just tanked. So it was appropriate for the time. It is sad to say, for a guy like that, he was a great back at Akron, but sometimes it just doesn't end up, well for some of these kids, and they make mistakes. Things happen, and he's no longer with the program, and now he's just out there, and hopefully he can get his life together and do things for the better and maybe get back on the football field. But if not, then it just is what it is. And Akron will have to go out with the season without him. He was a great back, too, for them, probably their entire offense.
Yeah, and again, like you said, there's not much else I can add to it there. And I will go ahead and throw out there, if for some reason you are desperate, you just want that Akron running back, some names here to consider: Anthony Williams and Cole Jess. Those are the two names I've been seeing kind of thrown around today. Not entirely sure how that's going to work out, but back there. But if they're anything like Tion Dollard, they could be a very good asset for you, especially once they get into MAC play. But until then, just kind of keep both those guys on your watch list, I'd say. The next one was probably one of the bigger surprises of the day, especially among the fantasy community, college fantasy community. And that's when Auburn's depth chart was released today. And wide receiver, long considered to be the number one option for the offense this year, Elijah Canyon is nowhere to be found on the Auburn depth chart. Not as a backup, not as a 3 deep. He is just not there. So Xavier, what are you thinking? You hearing anything? What's going on here?
Yeah, this has really been hard to find because once I saw the depth chart, I was like, all right, where's Elijah Canyon? Is he hurt? Is he injured? Did he leave the program? There's so many things that can happen now with a lot of these players. I'll take Eric Gilbert as an example. He's away from the team at the moment for Georgia, and he's not. He's probably not going to be available for week 1, or maybe he'll show up eventually. We don't know yet. Things can happen until Saturday, but it just leaves a lot of question marks of where is Elijah Canyon? Because even though he came as a 3-star recruit, he showed promise in the spring game, and heard a lot of news over camp as well too. So it's very just I don't even know how to explain it. It's just frustrating to see. I'm just like, all right, what's happening with Auburn? But I'm gonna hold off on caution. For people that have ownership of Elijah Canyon, I won't say hit the panic button just yet. There can be news that will come out, and maybe he's just away from the team for the week, or he had an injury. Hopefully, nothing major. But for the time being, it is a shock to say.
I mean, I think he's a very if you find if you're looking at the waiver wire right now and you see somebody that you're like, oh my God, how did nobody in my league pick this up? And you have Elijah Canyon on your roster, I think he's a pretty easy cut for somebody with a bit more or a bit less uncertainty right now.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think anybody's even if he comes back and he starts at the Auburn depth chart, he doesn't strike me as a guy that people are going to be scrambling at the waiver wire to pick up immediately. No. So I don't think you're in a massive danger to lose him, even if you do drop him for right now. So in my opinion, I think you drop him, try to pick up somebody with a little bit less uncertainty. Yeah. Next one. This one I got angry about because I was if you're in the Discord and everything, I had a little angry emoji reacting to this one. Mississippi State, their depth chart comes out today, and Jaden Walley is listed as a co-starter at the wide receiver position and is the only wide receiver position to have a or title. So Xavier, Jaden Walley has been a guy that a lot of us have been projecting as the number one wide receiver on this offense, but suddenly he's sharing snaps with Austin Williams at the Y position. Meanwhile, Micaiah Polk and Malik Heath and Jameer Calvin are all by themselves at their wide receiver positions. Should we be panicking about Jaden Walley, or should we be what's going on here? Or more likely than anything else, is this just Mike Leach screwing with all of us?
I think this is just Mike Leach screwing with us. Not even more so screwing with us. I think we're just looking too deep into us. We're forgetting that he's coming off an MCL sprain, and he was out for a critical part of that spring, I believe, or towards the end of the season. So it just shows a little bit of concern. I think this is the right move for Mike Leach to let him ease back in. Maybe at practice he didn't look like the same Jaden Walley that we saw last season, and it's going to take time in those reps. Maybe he's just not there yet. So I think it's just, more of those things where it's going to take, maybe a couple games in for Walley to get his footing. Or he could, show everybody and shock the world that he's back to the same old true freshman that we had last year and be that number one wide receiver for that Mississippi State offense, especially with Will Rogers being at the helm. I think it's, it's nothing to panic about at all. Jalen Walley is an all-world talent. He has plenty of years ahead of him. So I'm not too concerned.
Yep, I think that's a very fair and level-headed response. Definitely better than mine earlier today. So we'll go ahead and move on to Oregon here. And man, was I excited to see Troy Franklin, true freshman, get the start of the X receiver position for Oregon. I'll be real, y'all. I'm keeping an eye on this man as the season goes on. But in addition to that, like, just Micah Pittman, a sophomore this year, also gets to start at the H position. Like, Oregon is extremely young and talented at receiver, y'all. You need to be keeping an eye on this receiver group as the season goes on, especially if for some reason Anthony Brown gets benched and somebody like Ty Thompson comes in with a little bit better passing pedigree, comes in to utilize these receivers. Like, there's a lot of fun here with some very young guys on this Oregon offense. Xavier, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, you know what? Oregon's sneakily just, becoming one of those like teams where they might have a claim at wide receiver U in a couple of years. I think
that's quite a hot take. I'm writing that one down.
Yeah, Dante Thornton. They have Isaiah Crocker, Troy Franklin, Micah Pittman. They have all this talent coming in, and Mario Cristobal's doing a good job of recruiting for these like skilled players. And if Ty Thompson is that next QB, which he is labeled as the QB2, I think he is in a battle for that QB2 spot with maybe Butterfield or somebody else. I think there is an or tag for him at QB2, but I think Ty Thompson, I think he's a 4 or 5-star QB that came in for Oregon. Didn't win out the job because it's still Anthony Brown's team because of the seniority. But I think eventually, if Ty Thompson ends up taking that job, Oregon's offense is going to look very, very elite.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, I was just very excited to see. Like, I was worried. I know you labeled Devin Williams as like a sleeper earlier on this offseason and everything, but I was worried we would be seeing like him back at the top. I mean, Johnny Johnson's still there at the top and everything, but I was afraid we'd be seeing like a lot of upperclassmen. We'd still be seeing these freshmen like Dante Thornton, Crocker, Michael Pittman, and Troy Franklin. Like, all these guys would just be buried on the depth chart. But no, these guys have worked their way to the top, and I'm very, again, this is a very, very intriguing team to me now. I'm very excited. Also, in addition, another thing I didn't have written down on the notes, but CJ Verdell and Travis Dye are written as like slash. There's no or, there's slash. So something tells me they're probably going to be both on the field at the same time. That would not surprise me whatsoever. Go ahead and move on to the next bit of news here, and that's the Texas wide receiver room. I specifically wrote down here that Xavier Worthy, true freshman, was listed as a starter for Texas. But in addition to that, Joshua Moore and Jordan Whittington, I don't think really anybody's surprised, locked up those other two wide receiver positions. So, Xavier, what do you think about Xavier Worthy, a true freshman, locking up a receiver position at Texas?
Man, it speaks volumes. Michigan transfer, once he got on campus, he found out he just didn't like the Harbaugh system. And I think a lot of, players of talent are going to start seeing that, maybe Michigan is not the place I need to be. As we can see from Zach Charbonnet, it took him a while, but he finally realized. And
Joe Milton now starting at Tennessee.
Oh, yeah, that's another one we're going to get into. But, yeah, basically, all we heard out of camp was just great things. As soon as he stepped on campus, was just fighting for that position, showed all-world talent, and it was going to be hard to keep him off the field. And I'm glad that he's getting the starting nod. I do like Joshua Moore. I saw a clip the other day where Steve Sarkisian was being interviewed, and they were like, what's one player that you're just like, looking forward to coming from Alabama that's going to probably shock a lot of people? And he said Joshua Moore. And I was a little bit more surprised because I was like, Joshua Moore didn't have the most impressive season last season, but he can take that jump under a Steve Sarkisian offense.
I have no doubt about that.
Yeah. You were really high on him last year. And,
I was too, but he just couldn't stay healthy. That's his biggest problem.
Healthy.
Same with Jordan Whittington.
Yeah. And then Troy Amiri as well, too. It's just that Texas running wide receiver room just has some nagging injuries. But I think with Worthy and Whittington and Moore, if they stay healthy, then Hudson Card, or if Casey Thompson gets the job back, they're going to have a lot of weapons to use. And, it's all up to them. They control their own destiny with that team.
No, absolutely. Again, I'm very, very interested to watch Texas this weekend. We'll get into their game here in a little bit. The last bit of depth chart news that I kind of wanted to point out here is like this is something that's been kind of hinted at for a while. Like, I know a lot of people in the CFF community have kind of been like keying in on this recently. But now we get the official confirmation that Brandon Thomas, a freshman, I can't remember if he was true freshman or redshirt freshman, will be getting the starting gig as the running back 1 at Memphis. So this is kind of a surprise to a lot of people because who were expecting like Rodriguez Clark maybe comes back as number 1, maybe Asa Martin comes in, or Kylan Watkins. Both Asa Martin and Kylan Watkins, by the way, missing from the Memphis depth chart. So kind of surprised to a lot of people. This guy kind of came out of nowhere. So Xavier, may I ask you, is Brandon Thomas, is he the next Kenneth Gainwell, or are we looking at the next Rodriguez Clark?
Man, it's really hard to say right now. I'm going to have to leave that up to us watching the game because it's just like it's so many unknowns with him. It is telling that he did win the starting job, but it wasn't like a tough job to get. I mean, Rodriguez Clark is a serviceable back from Memphis. Like he'll get you a couple, maybe 4 or 5 yard games sometimes, and that's it. But
4 or 5 yard games. That's serviceable running backs for you.
Yeah, 4 or 5 yard games.
Xavier, one running back breaks off a 10-yard run. Xavier's like, all right, you're done for the day. Good job. That was serviceable.
Yeah, you did your job. So, I mean, but it is telling to where they have the receivers. Now they just need, I'm a believer of all teams. You have to at least have a serviceable back to establish a run and show that you can mix it up sometimes and, set the pace and tone of the game. So if Brandon Thomas is that all-world back as a true freshman or redshirt freshman, that's going to pose well for that Memphis offense going forward. And they could possibly, if Grant Grinnell or the backup, I forgot his name, the freshman, if he gets that starting job. Oh man, I believe it's Preston Stone, if I'm not mistaken. Or is that SM? Yeah, Preston Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Either of them win that job throughout the season. Memphis could make a deep run.
Preston Stone. Wait, what? No,
not Preston Stone.
It took me a minute to realize what you were saying.
Yeah, that's SMU.
Yeah,
that's SMU. I'm forgetting the Memphis quarterback.
Let me look it up real quick. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, man, it's SMU and Memphis just have so many freshman backup quarterbacks. So it's just a lot.
Is Seth Hartigan, I believe his name.
Hartigan? Okay.
No, Seth Hennigan.
Hennigan, okay. Seth Hennigan. So, yeah, whoever takes over the helm of that, they have a great receiving core. And if Brandon Thomas is a great back, then that Memphis offense is going to look just like the Memphis offense of old. So I'm excited to see.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, that's most of the depth chart things that I've kind of keyed in on today. There's plenty of other talks. Like just go on Twitter, you'll find plenty of people discussing things. One thing I did want to mention before we get into the game previews and everything, I had a little bit of injury news. Two bits of injury news, one of which was a bit more fantasy relevant than the other. I'll go with the non-fantasy relevant one real quick. Brandon Peters, who was injured his shoulder in the game against Nebraska last week. He's the quarterback for Illinois. He is questionable to return next Saturday. Again, I don't know how many people are planning on starting Brandon Peters. If you are, first of all, God bless your QB room. Second of all, you must be in a very deep league. Regardless of all that, he's questionable return, but he is expected to return at some point this season. And then the other one, a bit more fantasy relevant, running back Deion Hankins, who was taken out of the game against New Mexico State this past weekend, is considered doubtful to return for this Saturday's game. So if you are planning on starting Deion Hankins, please know that he is considered doubtful to return. So with all that out of the way, let's get to some game previews here, Xavier.
Yes.
And I typically wanted to just go like chronological order, but I feel like there's no other place to start except for the big game of the weekend. It starts everything off. Primetime ABC game, 7:30 p.m. Saturday night. In Charlotte, Clemson versus Georgia. So I know a lot of people know that we are dog fans. Yeah. And I have had several people DM me on Twitter and say, hey, if you need an unbiased opinion to come onto your show and say and like give the Clemson side of things, because we know that you guys are just going to say Georgia's going to win this game running away. So I'm going to let Xavier start here. Xavier, what are your thoughts on this game? Like how big is this game?
It is a very huge game. This is probably the best. Like people have said, this is probably the best week one slate, and this is probably the biggest game that I would say, like in our memory, that we can think of for week one for college football. So it's just the fact that it's in the Panther Stadium. It's in Charlotte. It's primetime ABC. The lights will be on. The stars will be out. So you have DJ versus JT, Heisman favorites, battle of the two giants. And it's just been a lot of talk about, like, for especially fantasy stuff aside, just for the college football landscape of, like, whoever wins or loses this game, it will affect their playoff chances. And it's I know for the Clemson side, they probably have an easier path if they do lose because they could just win out of the ACC and they'll probably have that auto bid in. Or Georgia will have a tougher path where if we lose to Clemson, but we end up having a better season and we go against Alabama, our season is still in question because, you know, there's other factors at play with if Iowa State wins the Big 12, if the Pac-12 does something amazing, have a good run. So it's always just, you know, Georgia's always at the we always have the worst odds. But for this game, we just never have the best of luck when it comes to these games. Like, everything's on the table. But I believe Georgia rises to the occasion. I will say, I'm not going to say objectively, like, you're going to blow this game away. I won't tell you the game plan of how things are going to go, of like what JT is going to do. I don't know what he's going to do. But I do believe Georgia will win this game. And even though we've had the injuries that we had where Darnell Washington is questionable, now he did go in a recent interview and saying that he isn't a boot, but don't be surprised if he does show up on the field, which would be huge. But as a Georgia fan, I kind of want
God, that would be massive.
It would be amazing, but I kind of want him for the rest of the season. We do have a backup tight end, Brock Bowers. Oh, man, for all those dynasty owners, keep an eye on him. That is a very speedy tight end, one of the top tight ends that we have. JT Daniels, they're saying that he's probably looked the best, even better than when he was at USC and coming out of high school with the offense. And with our backfield that we have, our O-line, we always recruit very highly. So if the O-line meshes well during that game, I think we can overpower the D-line possibly, because Clemson does have a strong D-line and we do as well too. I give Georgia the edge, but it's so many factors because it feels like an even matchup, but at the same time, as a Georgia fan, you always have to worry. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I guess you kind of laid out a lot of the reasons why Georgia is possibly going to win this game. I guess I'll have to play the devil's advocate over here. Yeah. Talk about why Clemson could win this game. And first of all, I'm just going to say, as a Georgia fan, I'm shaking in my boots about this game. Regardless, I do think Georgia's going to win because I just, I'm Georgia. I'm Team Georgia and everything. But like, at the same time, like, how can you not be nervous about a game? Like, regardless if you're a top dog or not. Like, if you're like, I know a lot of Clemson fans who are just like, oh no, I'm not worried about this game. We're gonna be fine. I'm just like, really? Like, you just a top 5 matchup and you're just not gonna be nervous at all? Sure thing. Regardless, let me lay out the reasons why Clemson wins this game. First of all, when you gotta look at the matchups and everything. Clemson brings back first of all, you got to start at the quarterback. You go DJ Uiagalelei, 5-star quarterback, I believe number 2 in his class behind Bryce Young. But unlike Bryce Young, he started 2 games last year when Trevor Lawrence went down with COVID. And so he lost against Notre Dame, but also threw for over 400 yards in that game. And led a comeback against a Boston College in which I believe he also threw over 300 yards in that game. So this is a man that has clearly faced, like, this isn't DJ getting like time in garbage time and, facing against soft defense. Like he has been thrown into the fire. He lost his first start. Second start, he has to lead a comeback against Boston College. These are high stress situations he has been in, and for the most part has risen to the occasion. He was not the reason why they lost against Notre Dame. DJ Uiagalelei has lived up to his billing and more as a 5-star recruit, as a 5-star quarterback, and is absolutely going to be essential to Clemson winning this game, because we then move to the running back position for Clemson. They lose Travis Etienne from last year, but they bring back Lynn J. Dixon, who's had plenty of experience. Kobe Pace has been rocking camp, as far as I've been hearing. And he's been even getting Nick Chubb comparisons, which is, just a little dig at Georgia fans because, why not? In addition to that, you have 5-star all-purpose back Will Shipley coming in and has been getting rave reviews out of camp and is even expected to be the starting kick returner for Clemson in this game. At least that's the news the rumors I've been kind of hearing. In addition, there's been rumors that the Clemson depth chart that was released today is utter crap, and that Will Shipley will be getting a massive share of the carries in this opening game due to the fact that Georgia has no film on him, and he is talented enough back to where he can absolutely start in a big game like this, and Clemson does not have to worry about it. So Clemson's woes at running back could easily be solved by a 5-star freshman coming in for his possible. If he doesn't start the game, he'll be getting plenty of carries during this game. So moving on from the running backs, you have the wide receivers. You have Frank Ladson Jr. Returning from last year. Justin Ross, who used to be considered a second round talent for the NFL draft, is now back from his neck surgery from last year and has been getting rave reviews out of camp. There's been a lot of talk about him moving to the slot, but I've also been hearing he's been getting plenty of work on the outside. This is a man that Clemson is ready to use all over the field. Clemson is absolutely loaded with weapons. Their tight end, they bring back Braden Galloway. They'll be using him plenty often. Joseph Ngata has been injured quite a bit, but I've been hearing he's been moved back to the number 2s, and that EJ Williams is now set to start against Georgia. They have plenty of weapons to use. This is going to be a matchup where both teams are going to have to score points to win, and Clemson is not lacking at all with offensive weapons. But even still, offense doesn't always win you these big games. Defense has to come up with it. Clemson's D-line is considered the best in the country. And while some of their secondary might be considered a little suspect, they still have one of the best cornerbacks in the country in Andrew Booth Jr. This is going to be a man that will be put on Georgia's best receivers, more than likely Jermaine Burton. I would not be surprised if Jermaine Burton does not have the greatest of nights, even if other Georgia receivers do. Because if Andrew Booth is on him, there's a good chance that's going to be a battle for the ages, a film room masterpiece, as it were, to be watching between those two. So all this to say, Clemson has every tool to win this game. Georgia also has every tool to win this game. Georgia has one of the most talented rosters in the country. This game is a 3-point spread for a reason. This game is basically a coin flip, with maybe a little bit advantage Clemson because they're a bit more used to playing in these larger games, and they're a little bit closer to home. But even still, this game's a complete coin flip, and it's going to be an incredible game that could go either way, and I'm so excited about it. Anyway, that's the end of my rant. I went on for a while there. Anyway,
was good though, yeah.
I feel like we touched on basically everything there. Xavier, do you have anything else you want to add to this game?
Man, I will say our secondary is very rough at the moment, and it is. I saw that we are going to start former 5-star number 1 overall corner Keely Ringo in our game, who I'm excited to see, but the lack of the inexperience factor always just gets me a little bit nervous. Maybe he'll rise to the occasion, maybe he won't, but I still have my dogs winning it because I think our running backs will dictate the pace of this game, and I like the choices and options that we have. Just like they have 3 good running backs, we have about 5. So it's fine. We'll throw whatever we can at them. One of them has to work out.
Oh no, like this again, like I said, this game could go either way. And
yeah, absolutely.
If I was being objective, I could make an argument for either team winning. But because I'm a Georgia fan, I'm gonna say Georgia's gonna win this game Saturday.
I will say this. I will say this. If I wasn't a fan of either team, I would want this to go to overtime. I would want to see a back and forth shootout of overtime.
See, but we are fans, Xavier, and our hearts can't take that.
Yeah, our hearts cannot take that because we already know what the outcome is going to be as Georgia sports fans.
Oh, yeah. No, well, maybe it'll go our way because this is not a championship setting.
True. You might be onto something.
Anyway,
we have to move on.
Yeah, we got to move on. That was our preview of the Clemson Georgia game, probably the biggest game of the weekend. But now we're going to move back to a bit more chronological. And so the first game I kind of want to talk about here for the big games. We're going to get into a lot more games later on with some of the spreads and everything. But I want to talk about UNC versus Virginia Tech. This is a game that didn't meet my criteria for the over-under segment we're going to do a little bit later here. But I think this is a very intriguing matchup early on. UNC loses a lot from last year on the offensive side of the ball, and this is absolutely a Virginia Tech team that, if they get hot early, could get UNC in a little bit of trouble. And it's at Virginia Tech, so this is a home environment for them. UNC, some of that young talent that they got going on there in Joshua Downs and Joffrey Brown and Caleb Hood, in addition to transfers like Tyler Chandler, they're thrown into the fire on this first game Friday night. I think this is going to be a very intriguing matchup. What say you, Xavier?
I don't know. I'm the opposite. I think Virginia Tech has also lost a lot. You know, Hendon Hooker is no longer there. They have the backup now starting. And then you lost Khalil Herbert and Caleb Farley at first round, it was projected to be first round. Actually, did he go first round?
Caleb Farley, yes.
Yeah, he did. So you lost the first round corner. And I think Sam Howell is just that great of a talent to where he can dissect that defense, with Josh Downs being, the wide receiver number one. And Ty Chandler is no slouch either. So even though Virginia Tech is a formidable opponent in the ACC, I don't think it would be too much for UNC for them to handle.
No, I think that's fair. I'm just looking up real quick. I'm trying to see if I can find the point spread for this game.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's like UNC probably like 14 and a half.
It is UNC minus 5.5.
Really? Wow. Ooh, they
Yeah.
have that game a lot closer. They probably know a little bit more than me. But
Again, I think a lot of it has to do with the home environment for Virginia Tech. Again, North Carolina losing a lot of pieces. Kind of a lot of things that I just said. I do think this is a one touchdown game. I don't think again, first game of the season, I imagine both sides come out looking sloppy, at least at first, and by the end of it, you probably have a similar thing to kind of what happens on last Saturday with Illinois and Nebraska, where maybe North Carolina pulls ahead by 2 touchdowns, and you have Virginia Tech coming in, gets a touchdown, might have to try to go for the onside kick, doesn't get it, and UNC wins that way. That's the kind of game I'm envisioning here, especially on a Friday night. So again, very interesting game. Again, we mentioned a lot of the names there, like Sam Howell, Josh Downs, Ty Chandler. Like, these are all guys that I think this is going to be a decent scoring game. And so I think both sides are going to have all their starters in the entire game. I don't see anybody getting benched here. So if you have these players on these teams and you believe in them, absolutely start them in this game.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and move on to the next game. We're now on to the Saturday games here. And this is a game I kind of circled when I first saw it, because I didn't see a lot of people talking about it. I'm like, this is a lot more intriguing matchup than I think a lot of people are giving it credit for. And that's Western Michigan at Michigan. So Xavier, what are your kind of thoughts here?
I know a lot of people in our community are expecting the upset, and I would too. I would too, but I'll give the edge to Michigan in this regard. Michigan always comes with a decent defensive performance. If you're gonna have to outscore Michigan. Like, you're gonna have to beat Michigan. Like, you have to do that in every game. But you're gonna have a masterful performance from Caleb Ellaby, Sky Moore. Like, everything's going to have to be clicking to get past, the D-line they always bring in, the corners and linebackers they always produce and send to the NFL. So I don't think Harbaugh loses this game, but it will be closer than a lot of people think.
Yeah, the line on this game currently is Michigan minus 17.
Oh, well, yeah. That's not as close as I thought it would be, but yeah.
Yeah, so currently minus 17. And again, I think a lot of it has to do with people aren't sure that Harbaugh's offense will be able to put up enough points in this game. And I know a lot of us in the fantasy community are really looking for Western Michigan's offense to be something of a fantasy goldmine this year, with Ladarius Jefferson, Jalen Hall, Sky Moore, Caleb Ellaby, who I like a lot. So I have to imagine that if Michigan's defense just isn't up to snuff and Western Michigan starts putting up some points, it could get dangerous for Michigan very, very quickly, especially if they're not able to answer. So, yeah, I think a very interesting game here. Next one, this is the big noon kickoff because people just love having their Big Ten games at noon on Saturdays. They just love that so much. But anyways, Penn State at Wisconsin. Xavier, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Can Penn State bounce back from that terrible season they had last season? You have Sean Clifford coming back as your starting quarterback, who is not as I wouldn't draft him for the NFL. I don't think he has any promises as an NFL quarterback in the future, but I think he's a serviceable enough quarterback for for college as well, because he has Jahan Dotson and Parker Washington as his two main wide receivers. Jahan Dotson is number one. Then you have a backfield where it is questionable because you lost a lot to injuries. Like Journey Brown had to medically leave redshirt forever because of injuries. And then you just lose so much. And now you have to rely on Noah Cain, former 4-star from, I believe, 2 years ago, to see if he'll come back from injury and be the guy that everybody had him projected him to be, this great, prolific, next great Penn State running back. And I'm not doubting he can do it, but I just haven't seen it. It's one of those things I have to see. Wisconsin is a little bit interesting as well, too, because is Graham Mertz going to look like the Graham Mertz we saw like week 1 last year? Or are we going to see Graham Mertz like post-COVID? Is that the quarterback that he truly is? Mm-hmm. So it will leave a lot to see. I mean, the running back room for Wisconsin as well, too, to where you have Muscuzzi and Berger. But yeah, and then I forgot his name.
Malusi.
I don't know why I said Muscuzzi. Muscuzzi. I don't know who I was thinking of, but yeah, Malusi and Berger. But also I'll throw in Jack Ferguson as well too.
Absolutely.
So it will be interesting to see how that game pans out. I'll have that game a lot closer, but I will give the edge to Wisconsin for now.
Let me take a look at what all right, so this game is Wisconsin minus 5.5.
Yeah.
So
that's probably where I'd have it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I might have it a little bit closer. I do think this is going to be a very low-scoring game. The over/under is 50. So that's right about where I would envision it. Like I can see this being easily like a 24-21 final score. Yeah. Again, like I'm interested like you in the Penn State comeback performance. I think Penn State got a lot of unfair flack last year for their performance. Like, granted, it's not fun to lose games. I get it, guys. But also at the same time, like, just go and look up like the stuff that Penn State was dealing with during COVID and everything, the things that James Franklin was dealing with, and you tell me that you would perform under those circumstances. So I do want to see them bounce back this year. I do think that Penn State is more than likely a top 15, maybe even top 10 program by the end of the year. And I think they start here at Wisconsin Saturday at noon. I think Penn State wins this game through a combination of improved quarterback play with Sean Clifford, as well as their defense stepping up to stop the run game of Wisconsin just enough to make sure that they, as you do in football, make sure you score more points at the end of the day. So I think Penn State wins this game. Xavier, you're picking Wisconsin, you said?
Yeah, I'll take Wisconsin.
All right, I'm taking Penn State. We'll move on to the next game here. This one's like a lesser game, but I think it's kind of interesting, and that's Stanford at Kansas State, non-conference game. Things I'm just kind of interested in. Skylar Thompson's one of my favorite players in football right now, and I really want to see him kind of make a comeback here with another Power 5 opponent coming into Kansas State. Yeah, that's a lot of it. Stanford, trying to figure out who their starting quarterback is, whether it's Jack West or I can't remember the other guy's name off the top of my head. I can look it up real quick. While I'm looking that up, Xavier, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm excited to see Deuce Vaughn. I love Deuce Vaughn as a running back. I know they're. Yeah, I love Deuce Vaughn. I have him in my dynasty team. I just like the upside with him. A lot of people compare him to oh man, why am I blanking on his name? He played for the Eagles. Sproles, Darren Sproles in college. And Darren Sproles was electric in college. And they're about the same size, but I think Deuce Vaughn is a little bit more heavier than him. He's almost listed at like 200 pounds now. Wow. So he's definitely bulked up. And I think he's ready for that workload of a lot of people had the question marks of his inconsistent season where it's like, yeah, he had great games. And there's other games where he didn't. But I just love that he was just he was an athlete. Whether if the run game wasn't working, he would find his way in the passing game and get receptions as well, too. So I'm excited for Deuce Vaughn. Skylar Thompson, if he can stay healthy, I would like to see as well. And then Stanford, let's see what Austin Jones can do against an out-of-conference opponent.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. I just looked up this game for the line as well. Currently, the line is at Kansas State minus 2.5. So a slight home favorite. I know that home, to tell you how close this game is, a home field advantage typically in odds making amounts to about 3 points. So if this was a 3-point swing, so if this was at Stanford would be the favorite. So that should tell you how close the odds makers think this game's going to be. I think it's going to be one of the more underrated games going into this weekend. if for some reason all the other noon games are kind of becoming blowouts and you just need an extra game, I guarantee you this game's going to be quite close into the final quarter. So, moving on past Stanford, we have the big 3:30 game on ABC, and that is Alabama at Miami. Man, like 10 years ago, or like maybe 10, 15 years ago, this would have been a clash of titans. Not quite anymore. Xavier, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it will be an interesting game, especially with the depth chart coming out from Alabama and Miami as well, too. There's just so many things that so many things I want to touch on. Let me touch on the Alabama side first.
All right.
Bryce Young. I want to see Bryce Young. 5-star quarterback, number one quarterback in his recruiting class. Everybody's saying, he possibly could be better than Tua for Alabama. Just these great things. And he has so many weapons. At Alabama, you have an embarrassment of riches at running back, where you have Brian Robinson Jr. as the start. Then you have Jason McClellan at the running back 2. And then you have Trey Sanders, which I think is also competing for that running back 2, if I'm not mistaken. So, and then at the wide receiver position, it's just it's a Bama receiver. Like, all of them are gonna have some type of talent. 5-star.
I will ask Xavier, have you seen the Bama depth chart today?
I have. JoJo Earl was the name I was going to mention, getting that nod to start against Miami. A lot of people were high on Ajay Hall coming in, especially in that spring game, but apparently JoJo Earl is out of camp.
JoJo Earl and Slade Bolton are listed as ORs for the H receiver on the Bama offense.
Yeah. So Bryce Young should be fine. I will say this. I won't completely write out Miami. This isn't like former years where, Bryce Young will have so much experience like a Mac Jones, where he got in a few more snaps than Bryce Young in the previous years when he was behind Tua and Jalen. So it's not the same. And Miami could possibly throw a wrench in that game. I'm not saying they're going to beat them, but I wouldn't be surprised if, the game is a lot closer than a lot of people think, especially on the Miami side with De'Aaron King coming back and the talent they have on that side. But I'll let you speak a little bit more on that.
No, I mean, that's fair. I'll ask you a quick question, Xavier. What do you think the line on this game is?
Oh, man. If it's close, then I'll be surprised. But I'll go Alabama minus 14.
Alabama minus 18.5. So
okay, that's
about 2 touchdowns and a field goal, a little bit more. So, I mean, that's basically what we've seen out of Alabama in these big Power 5 matchups to start the seasons and everything. Almost always Bama comes in and just hammers that opening game. We saw it against Florida State. Remember when that was a top 4 matchup? They absolutely destroyed DeAndre Francois. Duke a couple years ago, they just plastered against the wall. USC, they had an opener against, and that was they just completely thumped them. And again, I just don't see it any different here for Alabama against Miami. Although, again, I agree with you, Xavier. Miami has a lot to be excited about. I just don't think it's going to be very exciting for this game. Miami's got De'Aaron King back at quarterback after the ACL tear. Thank God he recovered. As much as I like Jake Garcia, I think De'Aaron King by far gives this team the best chance to win any game any week. In addition to that, he's got a plethora of receivers now that I think he's going to have a ton of fun with. Mike Harley is the assumed number 1 wide receiver coming back. I personally think that the number 2 wide receiver that everybody thinks will be the number 2, Charleston Rambo, is really the number 1. I think he's the number 1 receiver by the end of the year. I like him a lot in this offense, and everything I've heard out of camp is that he will be featured quite a bit. Keyshawn Smith, I believe, is the 3rd starting wide receiver for Miami. He's had a great camp. Apparently has made great strides this offseason. Will absolutely be used. So they got a plethora of options at receiver. In addition, they lost Brevin Jordan, but they might even have a better tight end coming in, Will Mallory, who I would not be shocked if he's a top 5 fantasy tight end by year's end. So, yeah, I guess the biggest question mark really for Miami is the run game, because man, were we excited to finally hopefully see some Jalen Knighton or Don Chaney Jr. Take over that backfield over Cameron Harris, because Cameron Harris kind of faded as the year went on. But as far as we can tell, well, I mean, the depth chart was released today. Cameron Harris is still the number 1 running back there. And I think a lot of that just has to do with that nobody in that running back room could stay healthy. No one. Yeah. Like they just constantly have nagging injuries, and if they can't get that figured out, they have no chance in this game against Alabama, let alone or they have no chance. Heck, they might not even have a chance covering the spread in this game. They can't figure that out, let alone upsetting Alabama. So, but again, I think Miami has a bright future after this game. Xavier, you picked them to win the Coastal. I picked them to finish second in the Coastal. I think it'll be a legitimate battle between them and North Carolina. So, yeah, I think that, again, I think both teams, or I think obviously Bama's going to Bama, and Miami, you got a bright future after this game, as long as Bama doesn't kill your quarterback. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. Again, another kind of smaller game, but it's a Big Ten matchup, and I think it's kind of interesting. Indiana at Iowa. Xavier, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, man, it's definitely going to be a battle of offense versus defense, I think, with Indiana's offense. If Michael Penix is fully healthy and ready to go with Ty Freifogel and Stephen Carr at the backfield versus Iowa's great defense. The only bright spot on their offense I can really say is Tyler Goodson. I can't even usually they'll put
Sam
out
Laporta.
Yeah, okay. That's your choice, your preference, but it is what it is. So it definitely will be a close game for that. I think that's going to be a great conference matchup between two teams competing for, I guess, they're in the West, if I'm not mistaken.
They're in the Big Ten West. Or no, Indiana's in the East. Iowa's in the West.
Oh, okay. In the West. Okay. Well, it will be interesting to see how those teams favor and if they can, I doubt Indiana can win the East, but Iowa, they may have a shot.
Well, I mean, again, I picked Iowa to win the West, and if they lose this game against Indiana, I'm gonna be real. That's a very big blow to my prediction there.
Yeah.
So, Indiana, if they do win this game, it keeps them in the driver's seat for the East until Ohio State has something to say about it. But I mean, Indiana did keep up with Ohio State last year. Like, you remember, Ohio State only won by a touchdown last year. Now, granted, they were up like 35-7 at halftime, and then Indiana crawled their way back with Freifogel. But even still, if they want to have a chance of winning the East this year, they have to win this game. So again, I think for both of these teams I think both of these teams have their eyes on winning the division for their respective sides. Again, like we said, Indiana's obviously going to have a hard time at that. But for either one to achieve those goals, they have to win this game to start things out on a good note. And personally, I think that we see Iowa win this game. It's at home. It'll be a close game, I think, and I think it's going to be a relatively low scoring, both teams under 30. But I think Iowa pulls it out with their defense.
I'll go Indiana with their offense. If Michael Penix is healthy, then I'll go with him.
Also, I just realized we haven't really gone through the rest of these games because I think we've been mostly on the same side for a lot of these games. But like Western Michigan and Michigan, you pick Michigan there?
Yeah, I'll pick Michigan.
All right, Stanford at Kansas State. I'm Kansas State.
Kansas State as well.
All right, Alabama, Miami, Alabama.
I'll go Alabama.
All right, cool. I just want to make sure we get these picks in. Next game I kind of find interesting, and that's Central Michigan at Missouri. So, Xavier, you find anything interesting with this game, or?
That's all you. I was surprised when you brought this up. I was like, really? You find interest in this game? I want you to speak on this. What do you find interesting about Missouri and Central Michigan?
I mean, if Missouri's going to want to – Missouri, I don't think they have their eye on winning the East, but I think they have their eye on, maybe finishing second, or maybe definitely being one of those teams that has something to say. I mean, obviously, if you ask the player, they're like, "Oh yeah, we're winning the East, we're winning the Natty." But I think realistically, if you're Missouri, I think finishing second in the East is not outside the realm of possibility, especially with Florida losing a lot of their production from last year. Catch them on an off week, you can absolutely pick up that second spot in the East. But you have to be none of that's possible if you don't start here with Central Michigan coming to town with the offensive weapons that they kind of bring to the table here in Lou Nichols. Lou Nichols is a very young running back, and if you can't stop a MAC running back such as Luke Nichols, you are not going to be able to stop Zamir White. You're not going to be able to stop coming down the road. You're going to have Jabari Small. You're going to have Tyon Evans. You're going to have Raymond Davis, Chris Rodriguez. Thank you. I knew I was forgetting somebody big. You're not going to be able to stop those guys, and your goals are out the window. So I think it has to start here. And then Missouri, I just want to see what they're looking like on offense for the most part. Connor Bazelak comes back as quarterback. I want to see how they use Tyler Beatty. I know he's put on a lot of weight. so that he can handle a true workhorse running back role, which I'm very excited about because I was very worried about that coming into the season. I'm curious to see if they still use him in the receiving game like they did last year, or if they rely on receivers such as Mookie Cooper and Kiki Kism. I want to see how those guys develop. So again, I have some interest in this game for the most part.
Okay. Yeah, but I think that's bold claim that you think Missouri has a possibility of winning the East, or not winning the East, coming second in the East.
I think so.
I still have Kentucky and Florida. Probably give the edge to Kentucky right now, but I'll always give Florida that little nod of coming second in the East.
I mean, if they get this offense going, I see no reason why they can't be a force to be reckoned with in the East, at least for everybody except for Georgia. So
we'll see. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. They do have some pieces. I will not lie.
So we'll move on from that game. This next one I almost left off by accident, and I'm really glad I did one more check through of the games because it's kind of a big one. But Louisiana at Texas. So Xavier, what are you thinking for this game?
Yeah, it's all going to be about the quarterback. Hudson Card, what are you going to look like? Is it going to be like a struggling first half and then they have to put in Casey Thompson? Does Casey Thompson take back the job? So many narratives and so many things that can happen in this game. Well, how many touches are Bijan Robinson going to get? Because as of people that took him as a top 5 pick, I would assume I want to see about like 20 to 30 touches, like Sarkisian has said in the past, where they want to use him. He's the focal point of that team. So it's just so much. And also with Lafayette, I'm not probably going to worry about it too much. I'd rather see Lafayette versus their conference opponents because they do have some pieces that I am excited for, especially at the running back with Chris Smith and oh God, why am I forgetting the backup? I love him a lot too. Amani Bailey. I want to see a little bit of him as well too. And we'll see what Levi Lewis does at the quarterback position to see if he still has that rushing ability that he can do again in his conference. So it leaves a lot, especially also the Texas receivers as well too. But I think the big name thing is the quarterback.
I would agree with you 100% that the key to this game is Hudson Card. I think people know who Bijan Robinson is now, and Louisiana is a team that is not talented enough to stop him. I don't think they're there, but they're definitely talented enough to slow him down. And if they can get Texas into a game script that they want, where you got this low scoring, run the ball, the timer's going down very quickly, or your clock's going down very quickly, and you keep both teams under 25 points, I could easily see Louisiana taking advantage of that. I think that honestly, Louisiana might have the offense-defense advantage just a little bit in this game. In terms of the Texas front seven, if I remember correctly, have not been getting rave reviews out of camp. Now, the secondary I've been hearing has been getting pretty good reviews. But even still, when the focal point of the Louisiana offense is Levi Lewis and Chris Smith's rushing ability, that secondary is not going to be a ton of help except for stopping them after they've already gained 15 yards. So I think this game's going to be a lot more interesting than people are expecting. Sarkisian, of course, like if Sarkisian's offense is on fire here, obviously they're going to blow this game out of the water, and we're going to have to consider Texas a legitimate challenger to the Big 12 champion. However, I don't think that's quite what happens. Let me look at this. Let me try to find the spread in this game. Let's see. I went too far. There it is. Texas -8. So this is not this game is closer than like people are expecting here. First of all, also tickets as low as $26. Y'all, if you're living near Austin, that's not a terrible game to be able to just grab for $26. So, I think this is gonna be a legitimately great game for this opening weekend. I think it's gonna be one of those kind of ones that kind of fly under the radar because everybody in this 3:30 time is probably gonna be watching Bama Miami. But even still, I'm excited for this game. We'll go ahead and move on to the next one. Nevada at California. This is the 10:30 game on FS1 on Saturday. And nothing really on California's side, and nothing against the Bears or anything like that, but there's not a lot of players I'm really interested in. But for me, it starts with the Nevada offense. Carson Strong, all his receiving options, Cole Turner, Spiker, Dubs, Cooks, Horton, all those guys. I want to see them go up against a Power 5 defense. I want to see what they can do there, because if they can shred a defense like California, even though California's not like the biggest Power 5 program in the world, if they can do that against California, I can't wait to see what they do against the Mountain 5 defenses that they'll be facing in their division. So Xavier, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I have the exact same thoughts. I don't rate California that highly, but Power 5 opponents are Power 5 opponents, and you're coming from a non-Power 5 group of 5 team. So I'm just like, well, let's see what your offense can do, because we've seen you do it in the past with Cole Turner, Toa, all those receivers that you named as well too. So, and Carson Strong at the helm, and if his O-line is intact and he can stay in the pocket, even though he's not as mobile as he is, he still has a great arm, great accuracy, and if they put up a lot of points, I would be actually, I am kind of intrigued about the spread of that, if you don't mind looking that up.
Oh yeah, I got you.
Yeah, but just to see the firepower, and if they live up to expectations in that game, then the Mountain West is theirs for the taking. Yeah, I see no reason why they don't win.
Oh wow! So I'm legitimately shocked at this. So the spread is California. I'm actually there. What do you think it is?
Well, you already told me it's California something, so they have California winning, but I don't know, man. It feels like it's going to be pretty close. I'd say California -3.
It is California -3. I'll be real. I thought they would have Cal as a Power 5 program like more. I thought this would probably be north of a touchdown. But no, odds makers really like Nevada's offense, it looks like.
Yeah.
The over-under on this game, though, is only 52.5. If you're expecting that close of a game, I have to feel like that game's going to go over. But this is not a betting show. Do not take my bets. I mostly just kind of put them out there as like if I was a betting man, I might look at this. Don't sue me, please. Anyway, we'll move on to our last game here that I kind of consider interesting outside of the over on the games we're about to hit, because I can already feel everybody screaming at me at this point, like, you forgot about Ohio State, Minnesota. I know. Okay, I know. We're gonna get to that. We're getting that in a second. But last game here that is like not like a high scoring game, but still an intriguing matchup to me is Notre Dame at Florida State, and I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I'm calling Florida State to pull the upset here.
Yeah, I'm not with you there, Chief. I saw that today when you texted in our group chat, and I was like, that is a very, very bold claim.
Now, let me be very, very clear here.
Explain yourself, sir.
If Florida State wins this, it is going to be, first of all, huge for the program.
Absolutely.
Second of all, if they win, it's going to be like by a point or two. Like this is like this, like they are going to like this will be like a last minute thing. Notre Dame's a legitimate team. They got a legitimate defense. What concerns me more than anything is the offense. I don't see Notre Dame putting up a ton of points in this game. Florida State has done a lot, and I mean a lot, to bring in a lot of defensive talent through that transfer portal, and I can absolutely see them using it to their advantage in this team to stop what I consider a very mediocre Notre Dame offense. You got Jack Cohn as the helmsman of the Notre Dame offense, and he's a poor man's Jake Fromm. All right, like that's what Jack Cohn is. In terms of receiving talent, Kevin Austin might be the best receiver that Notre Dame has to offer, and if you know anything about Kevin Austin, that's not saying much. The big thing for Notre Dame here is going to be their running game and their tight end usage. Michael Mayer and Kyron Williams, Chris Tyree, there's going to be three huge names in this game. If Notre Dame can, or if Florida State can key in on those guys and stop that, they might stop this entire Notre Dame offense. Meanwhile, on the other side of it, Florida State, you have two, in my opinion, legitimate options at quarterback. You got Jordan Travis with his rushing ability, who's a somewhat, I'd say, all right passer. Like, he's not the greatest in the world or anything like that. Definitely had some struggles last year, but they did beat UNC last year. Let's not forget that. They had a great game, and they were able to top a top 10 opponent. So, again, like I said, let's not forget that. In addition to that, you have Mackenzie Milton, the ultimate comeback story. If he comes into this game and wins this game for Florida State over Notre Dame, they might build him a statue right then and there at Florida State. If he's in the game, look for a lot of passing, look for some young receivers to step up, like Malik McLean, Joshua Burrell. Those are two freshmen that I'm keeping my eye on in that game. But in addition, Andrew Parchment, transfer from Kansas, is expected to be a big part of this game. Absolutely They got some weapons on that Florida State offense. I think they absolutely could put it to use if Mackenzie Milton is at the helm. But even so, the big part for Florida State is they're going to have, like Xavier said, they have to be able to establish the run here. And Joshua Corbin has been all right in the past, but I'm looking out specifically for Lawrence Toafili. I've been hearing his name a lot out of camp, and I would not be surprised if they throw him more into the rotation at back there. And if he is everything that these reports have been saying, he can absolutely help Florida State be the multi-dimensional offense. And like I said, if Florida State's newly revamped defense with all these transfers comes in and are able to slow down Notre Dame, I can absolutely see Florida State upsetting Notre Dame on Sunday night.
Yeah. Ooh, bold claims. All right, I guess I'll take the opposition to this. I just think Notre Dame's defense is just going to overpower Florida State. Florida State's program has been in shambles for a very, very long time. And even though they recruited at a high level, they just never can put it together. Now, I do like some of the names that you mentioned coming in that they have in terms of their youth, freshman-wise, with those wide receivers. Heard a lot of great things out of them. But it's just mainly that quarterback and running back tandem of just like, is it going to be Jordan Travis? Will it be Mackenzie Milton? Even I would like to see if Mackenzie Milton was fully healthy, obviously Mackenzie would start. But I just don't know what he's going to look like off of that ACL injury when he used to, do a little bit of both, use his legs and his arm and show that accuracy as well, too. And Jordan Travis, he gives you that. I think that's why they probably are going to use Jordan Travis going into that game to win, to try to win. But I just don't think they overpower their defense, especially when you get Cincinnati's DC as their new DC. And we all know how great Cincinnati's defense was last year. I just don't think Florida State will be able to overcome that in just the season of like, all right, this is our year to, finally get our names back in like the limelight. And I just don't think it's their time right now. And that's why I'd probably still have Notre Dame, with Kyron Williams and Chris Tyree probably just running all over them. Now, I will say I was a little bit hurt when they took away Jermaine Johnson from Georgia. Mm-hmm. He's a great linebacker for Florida State. I think he's going to be a very big part of that defense and probably will be able to slow down that run game a little bit, but not enough to stop them.
I want to also point out that Notre Dame, if I remember correctly, is starting a true freshman at guard. So
yeah, but they recruit well at O-line as well.
Oh, they do. So don't get me wrong, but even still, some inexperience there. I think Florida State, again, some of these transfers they brought in on defense can absolutely try to take advantage of that. Okay. So again, I'm standing by my pick. I think Florida State upsets Notre Dame on Sunday night on ABC. So we're gonna stick with that. So those are all the games that were like big games this weekend, but they're not like the high scoring games. These aren't the games that you're looking at and it's like, I want a piece of the scoring that happens in that game. So I've learned this trick from John Love, the Gridiron Scholar. God bless him. He typically looks for, like, if you want a good place to start when deciding who to start every week, you look at the games who have the highest over-unders. And so I have set a line to where every week I'm going to talk about the games that are whose over-unders are 65 points or greater. So we're going to go through every single one of those games. We've got 9 games to go through here. And we're going to talk about the players in those games that you're going to want to start for this upcoming weekend. So we're going to go ahead and start with our first one. And Xavier, I'll let you start off on this one. Who are the people you want to see on Thursday at 7 p.m. on ESPN for Boise State at UCF?
Yeah, I'll stick with Boise State's number 1 wide receiver, Khalil Shakir. I want to see what he can do against Gus Malzahn's defense at UCF, because usually UCF, they recruit well at that defensive back position, especially a lot of their safeties and corners go off to the NFL and have great games. And UCF, I hope that Gus doesn't play conservative, considering that you lost Bentavious Thompson to, I forgot, I think the transfer portal or just left.
I think he's just off the team right now. I think he left the team.
He's off the team right now. So I have question marks about that running back room, and usually Gus likes to use his running backs, but you have so many great receivers that Dylan Gabriel can throw to. So I'm just hoping that, it's the first game. Gus lets Dylan just do his thing that he's been doing, run the same game script, kind of a similar game script to what they've been doing in the past under Josh Heupel, with using Jalen Robinson, Ryan O'Keefe, Trey Nixon. So I hope that Gus just uses his talent and let his talent wins the game.
No, I think that's entirely fair. And so I think another name that I need to throw out here on the Boise State side of things is George Holani. the running back for Boise State. Now, I've had a lot of questions over the offseason about Andrew Van Buren, with George Holani coming back from injury. Like, how are these splits getting carried up? And like the more and more I've dug into it, George Holani's taken over that backfield once again. It's absolutely going to be a focal point of this offense. The head coach that they had there used to be the defensive coordinator for Boise State before he went off to, I believe, what program did he leave for? I forget. Indiana. No, I forget off the top of my head. But the head coach at Boise State just came back. And so I believe he's, again, defensive-minded head coach. He's going to want to run that ball to protect his defense, and I think George Holani is going to be a huge part of that, in addition to Khalil Shakir, who also has some rushing ability. So I think those are the big names on Boise State's side. And you covered Dylan Gabriel and Jalen Robinson on the UCF side. I'm trying to think of anybody else maybe on that. If you need a late flyer, like you're struggling at wide receiver, I would also throw maybe Ryan O'Keefe. I think that would be like a fair one for you, just to like, if you have him in best ball, you might have a good week out of him, but absolutely, we will see. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next game. By the way, that over-under for that game is 68.5. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. This is kind of the big one that I kind of missed in the earlier talk, and that is Ohio State at Minnesota, Thursday night, 8 p.m. on Fox. The over-under for this game is right at 65. So, Xavier, who are you starting for this game? Or who do you suggest people start out of this game?
Man, for the Minnesota side, I have to say this. I don't even feel comfortable starting anybody on the Minnesota side. I know that's probably really hot to say because I love Muhammad Ibrahim. I have a share of Muhammad Ibrahim. I just don't feel comfortable putting him against Ohio State, especially first game of the season when he's going to be targeted to where – you know, we heard Ottman Bell out of camp is coming back from injury, and Tanner Mordecai is an okay quarterback, but there's so many question marks about their offense coming into this year. Mm-hmm. And even though it is at Minnesota, so that gives them a slight advantage, it's still Ohio State's talent that they have on both sides of the ball. So I'd start anybody on Ohio State, even their defense.
See, here's yeah, I agree with you 100%, but like I'm gonna fight back on you here with Muhammad Ibrahim, and like. This is to my own detriment because you have Muhammad Ibrahim in our home league. So me convincing you that he's worth starting is going to bite me in the ass this Saturday. I guarantee it. But let me tell you his stat lines from last year. Last year in losses, they lost 4 games last year versus Michigan. He had 26 carries for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. Versus Maryland, he had 41 carries, 207 yards and 4 touchdowns. Versus Iowa, who they lost 35-7. So they got blasted in that game. He had 144 yards with 33 carries. Versus Wisconsin, they lost this game in overtime, but he had 26 carries for 151 yards. 0 touchdowns, though. That is a safe-ass floor, even if you're scared of him going up against one of the better defenses that he'll be facing. Because even when he went up against Iowa's got a good defense. He still put up over 100 yards.
Man, it's tough, though. It's like, yeah, Iowa's a great defense, but there's just a different level of, like, you know, when you have the Clemson, the Georgias, the Alabama.
But does it matter when he's getting 30-plus carries a game?
I think it does, because I don't think it's sustainable. I just don't. But
he's game script proof. Like, you're looking at this, like there's so many opportunities in these games where they could have easily just gone to the passing game. Because last year they had Rashad Bateman. They had Chris Ottman Bell both. And they still grounded and pounded with Muhammad Ibrahim.
Well, they had a Bateman for just a little bit until he opted out. And then they had Ottman Bell. But it's Ohio State. That's just a different beast to where, yeah, if this was against Iowa or something like that, then I'd be like, of course, I don't care. If I have Minnesota losing that game, I'd still put Ibrahim in.
I'm telling you, don't start him at your own risk. And if he's sitting on your bench with 20-plus points this weekend, I'm going to laugh at you so hard because I'll be winning. Because I'll be winning that week if you have Muhammad Ibrahim on your bench.
Nah, I have other people in play. It's still a thing I'm thinking about. I'll probably make that decision either Thursday at 7:30 if I want to do it or not, but we'll see.
But even still, like you said, with Ohio State, start everybody. I mean, CJ Stroud, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Start them all. The one question mark.
Jigba, please. I feel like he's going to be very active in this game as well, too, from what I'm hearing.
All right. Even still, I think the bigger question comes from what do we do with the Ohio State running backs? And I'd say don't start Master Teague. I'm just not hearing good things out of camp. I don't think he's going to be a major part of this offense. Mayan Williams is expected to get the first snap, which tells me that he's going to get plenty of carries in this game. And that is telling me that he is somebody that you should be able to put at your flex. Don't rely on them as somebody who you consider a starter, but if you really feel like starting them, put them at your flex. Like they should be he should be like your option where you feel like you got nobody else and you start him there at the flex. And then Travion Henderson, I don't think you should be able to start him yet. I think he's definitely a down the line, stash him for later in the season kind of play. So anybody else here, Xavier, that you might want to consider starting or?
Nah, not really.
All righty, cool beans. We'll go ahead and move on to the next game. And I'm a dummy. We already talked about this game. I thought I had taken this off the first one, but we'll go through this one real quick. Western Michigan and Michigan. Again, I want to start I would want to start the all the Western Michigan players, Caleb Ellaby, Jalen Hall, Sky Moore. I think they're all going to be big parts of this. Ladarius Jefferson. I think Western Michigan is going to have a ton of fun putting up some points, and I think Vegas agrees with me. The over-under on this game is 67. I don't think they believe all those points are coming from Michigan. So you're going to see Western Michigan, they don't believe all these points are going to come from Michigan, so I think Western Michigan is going to get plenty of scores in this game. On the Michigan side of things, yeah, I know there's not. You got somebody? You got somebody?
I got somebody. I'll take a if it's week 1 in your season. You know what? Even though Michigan's depth chart I don't think has been released, I think Donovan Edwards is going to get that start, and I'll take a bet on Donovan. I think so. I really think so. So.
All right, you heard it here, folks. You heard it here, folks. Yeah. Xavier says start Donovan Edwards.
Well, put him as your flex, but yes, put him in your starting lineup. It's just a shot. It's Western Michigan. It's not like they're praised for their defense, and you are Michigan, so you'll have a good old line.
Maybe I'm not there with you, but I'll respect your opinion. So we'll move on to the fourth game here, and this is actually a game that should be flipped. If you're looking at the graphic, it says Oklahoma at Tulane, no longer in New Orleans. Because of Hurricane Ida. By the way, if you know of any charity or anybody looking to help the people down there, please take your time and donate some money to those people down there. It is a actual hellscape right now down there. They need as much help as they can. Keep them all in your prayers as well. Prayers and action, those are the two most important things for them down there. Anyway, we'll get back to the actual football talk here. So this is now Tulane at Oklahoma. This game has been moved to Norman. Official confirmation came from that about a couple hours ago. So Xavier, who are you looking to start in this game? The over-under on this game is right at a crisp, nice 69.
Yeah, everybody on Oklahoma. It doesn't matter. From running back, QB, wide receiver, I'd start any whoever the starting wide receivers for Oklahoma are going to be. I know it's going to probably be Marvin Mims. But it's question marks of who's going to be that 2 or in that 3 or at the Y and Z position. Mm-hmm. So it could be Hasselwood. It could be true freshman Mario Williams. It could be, oh God, why am I forgetting his name? He was, I had Theo Weiss.
Yes.
So it's just so many, they have so many options. And then you have Eric Gray in the backfield. So, and then you have Spencer Rattler. Obviously start Spencer Rattler. Eric Gray is another guy I would start at my running back, even for a running back 1. And then Marvin Mims, that's up to you. He can be a wide receiver 1 if he, replicates or does better than the season last season. And if not, then they'll spread the ball enough. Even Austin Sogner at tight end, I think will get a lot of action and have some fantasy relevance. Nobody on the Tulane side though.
Oh, nobody on the Tulane side. I'm going to disagree with you there. I'm going to go Michael Pratt, quarterback out of Tulane. This is a quarterback started as a true freshman last year. I think more than lived up to his billing as a true freshman. Comes back with a year of experience under his belt. He's got a couple of good wide receivers in Deuce Watts, Fat Watts, and Jaquan Jackson, I believe is his name. I might be messing that up off the top of my head. But even still, he's got plenty of good receivers. They're going to be behind this game. They're going to be throwing the ball around a whole lot. In addition to that, Michael Pratt is a dual threat quarterback. And so I do believe you're going to see plenty of him running around and trying to pick up some extra downs, especially in garbage time. Kind of similar to how you saw Adrian Martinez last week. So again, Michael Pratt, definitely not an every week starter, but I think in this case, with all the garbage time that they're going to have, would not surprise me if Michael Pratt has a fantasy relevant game in this game. But other than that, I probably wouldn't start anybody on the Tulane side.
Really?
So
okay,
we'll go ahead and move on to the next game we got here, and that's Oregon State at Purdue. This is the Saturday 7 p.m. on FS1. The over-under on this game is right at my margin of 65. So Xavier, who are you looking for in this game?
Yeah, so they just announced maybe a couple of days ago or maybe a week ago that I always get the name wrong. It's Jack Plummer.
There you go, we got it.
There we go. God. Yeah, Jack and Jake's always get me tripped up. But yeah, Jack Plummer is definitely expecting to have a good day. David Bell, wide receiver number 1 in a lot of people's drafts. Also Xander Horvath as well too. Expecting him to get a lot of production, even with the transfer that just came in. Forgetting his name.
Samson James. He's not expected to be immediately eligible.
Okay. Well then, yeah, even more. I'll be a little bit higher on Horvath as well too. So definitely will be a good game. On the Oregon State side, I haven't really looked into Oregon State as much this offseason. That's definitely some more research I have to do, because I've done like all the Washington teams, and I've done Oregon, but I haven't done Oregon, and I've done Arizona. So yeah, I guess Oregon State's been the last one. The Pac-12 I haven't really looked at because they just don't excite me that much.
Yeah, well, again, if you have been doing your research and everything, you wouldn't have found much more than you already know. Oregon State has been an incredibly hard team to kind of follow this offseason, and they released their depth chart today. Let me pull that up just real quick, but my guy that I've been kind of looking at there, Deshaun Fenwick, he's been somebody that I think could easily become that next Jamar Jefferson there. He was hit with the dreaded or today at running back, so we're not entirely sure how that running back room is going to shake out. Why am I failing at finding this? There we go. Found it. Sam Neuer, quarterback out of Colorado, now the starting quarterback at Oregon State. I'm not going to say that's much of an upgrade if I'm being real. But yeah, running back, we got BJ Baylor, Deshaun Fenwick, and Trey Lowe all listed as starters, which again is kind of weird to me. Wide receivers, we got Zariah Beeson, who I know some people are looking at as a possible dynasty or a possible C2C play. I'll mention that. I don't think these are guys that I would trust starting this weekend, especially since we haven't seen any of them yet. Trayvon Bradford, he's the kind of the experience in the room there. He's a redshirt senior. Not entirely sure how much target he's going to get, because again, we haven't seen Sam Neuer as the quarterback here. So yeah, I'm kind of with you, Xavier. Not much on the Oregon State side that I would be really looking into for this game. It's all on the Purdue side. You mentioned David Bell. I'm also going to throw out Milton Wright, who's going to be the number 2 wide receiver there at Purdue. I foresee him having plenty of targets in this game. So yeah, I'd say Jack Plummer, David Bell, of course, Milton Wright, and Xander Horvath if you're looking for kind of a flex at running back, especially if you're in PPR. So those are what I'm thinking. Go ahead and move on to the next game, and that's going to be Texas Tech at Houston. Xavier, what are you looking for here?
Oh, man, I want to see the resurgence of Eric Ezukama and how Tyler Shuck will play under that Texas Tech offense. Really excited to see. Let's see, on the Houston side, man, it's been a while since I've thought about Houston, ever since Marquez Stevenson and Derek King. It's going to have to enlighten me to see who's left on that roster that's Clayton Tune's the starting quarterback at Houston.
That's right. Dual threat quarterback. I foresee him getting plenty of work in this game, especially since that run game is very mediocre, to say the best. They did name God, I think his name's not Malik Carr. That's the guy from Michigan State. Where are you at? I just looked at this depth chart. Here we go. So we're looking at Mulbakar. Mulbakar was named the starting running back today for them. So maybe that's as a new face. So maybe they get a bit more out of the run game than they're used to. But the receivers here, who I'm kind of keying in on, Nathaniel Dell, I think is going to be more than likely your number one wide receiver. And then, honestly, again, typically I wouldn't mention this name because I'm not a huge buyer into his stock. But Keyshawn Carter transferred to Houston from Texas Tech. So, narrative-wise, maybe there's a little bit of a revenge factor going on here. Maybe he wants to show out his old team and everything. It's like, hey, you miss me? I don't know.
Oh yeah,
that's some deep analysis right there for you. So, yeah, those are kind of who I'm looking at on the Houston side, and I agree with you 100% on the Texas Tech side. Tyler Shuck is somebody to look at here. He's been named the starting quarterback. And then Eric Ezukanma as well. And
maybe Geiger transfer from Troy, if I'm not, or Rice. I forgot which team. I think it was Troy.
I'm going to say no, because actually I just looked at the depth chart. I remember talking about this earlier today. He is listed as an OR, so he'll be rotating in and out at that position. So
okay.
Ezukanma has locked down his position. He'll be out on the field a good majority of snaps. Meanwhile, Geiger's still kind of fighting for those snaps. So I would say if you're going to start a receiver for Texas Tech this week, it's going to be Eric Ezukanma. Yeah. So, moving on, we'll talk about the next game. And this is a game I typically would have just put in the big games to talk about. But, I do find this game interesting. But Kent State at Texas A&M. I find it interesting that this over-under is so high because, honestly, for the amount of times I've been told, like, oh my God, look at Dustin Crum's record against Power 5 opponents. Look at Dustin Crum's record against Power 5 opponents. Okay, yeah, but then the over-under on this is 65.5. So that tells me they believe that Kent State's going to score some. So that's what I kind of find interesting about this game for the most part. And again, I do want to see Dustin Crum. I love watching Dustin Crum. He's a great MAC quarterback. And I'm trying to find the spread for this game and everything. So you got Texas A&M minus 4 touchdowns. So clearly they don't expect this game to be close. But even still, you do the math on that. That's still putting Kent State is scoring about 20 points in this game and everything. Plenty of time to give Dustin Crum at least some fantasy relevance. I don't know. This is where I'm just kind of finding interesting. It's like, am I stumbling on something to where this is a very easy under to get people? I don't know. Again, I'm not a betting man, but these are the things that just kind of go through my head sometimes. I don't know.
I would definitely take the under in this game. I think Texas A&M is going to blow them out on both sides of the ball to where the defense completely shut down Dustin Crum and the Kent State offense, and Texas A&M is going to expose the Kent State defense with all the weapons that they have.
Yeah, again, on Texas A&M side, I'd absolutely would start Isaiah Spiller. I would start Anaya Smith. Would you start Haynes King?
I would. I absolutely would.
All right.
I would even go as far as I'd probably start A-Chain. After, if Isaiah Spiller has a great half, then A-Chain gets the rest of the game.
No, it's completely fair. I agree. So, but yeah, that's kind of what I find interesting about this game, where I'm just sitting there like, this over-under and the point spread and people's just perception of this of Dustin Crum against Power 5 competition, just none of it, something's got to break here as far as I'm considered. And I think more than likely we're going to see the under break on this game. Again, this is not a betting show. Why am I talking about this? We'll go ahead and move on to the next game before I get myself in trouble. So this is a game I'm very interested in. That's LSU at UCLA. This is the Saturday night, 8 p.m. game on Fox. This is the one I'm going to cry because I'll have the Georgia game up on the big screen, but I'm going to definitely have this one on the little screen right next to me just in case both of them are interesting. We saw UCLA this past week. We saw Britton Brown and Charbonnet steal the show for them until UCLA just wanted to take it easy in the second half. They knew they had the game well in hand, so they just kind of threw it around a bit, scored a defensive touchdown, stuff like that. So, Xavier, who are you looking for in this game? And the over-under on this is 67. Do you think that the points or the amount of points in this game are going to match that? Like, what are you thinking here?
I think it will. I'll give UCLA the credit. They will be able to put up points. I like for some reason, DTR just has a knack for turning things on late in games coming from behind. He won't win the game. Like UCLA will not win this game, and I don't think it will be close. But he will be able to put up points to where if you didn't watch the game, you'll be like, man, this game was really a lot closer than I thought. Like LSU will probably come out of the water. Max Johnson.
Do you know what the spread on this game is, Xavier?
Oh, probably LSU. Probably minus 17.
LSU minus 3.
What? Oh, okay. Wow, that's very surprising. I guess they looked into the last season and they were like, LSU did not look very formidable, which they did not. And their run defense is very terrible last year with their D line. But I think Orgeron has, worked in the offseason to kind of fix that problem. But it will be interesting to see.
Well,
and they fired Bo Pelini as well too. So
I'll throw this out there. And again, I'm not comparing LSU's wide receiver room to Hawaii's or anything like that, but we did see UCLA completely shut down the passing attack from Hawaii last week. And I'm not saying that Hawaii and LSU are completely comparable, but I do think UCLA's secondary is probably one of the better ones in the Pac-12. And I think that if LSU legitimately struggles to run the ball in this game like they did last year in several games, it's what got them in trouble in many games. John Emery Jr., Tyrion Davis-Price, these are going to be guys that have to show up in this game. Otherwise, I think UCLA will have no problem shutting down, or not no problem, but I think they'll have a legitimate shot to shut down that LSU passing attack, especially with a lot of kind of younger receivers, a lot of not household names yet besides Keishawn Butte. I think I think you're not giving LSU enough credit, or UCLA enough credit here, to where they can absolutely stay in this game and keep it within a close score.
Yeah, I just don't believe in Chip Kelly. I don't think his track record is just not. I'm not convinced. I'd rather believe in Ed Orgeron and his defense than over Chip Kelly and his defense. I'd take Ed Orgeron's defense. To be able to stop UCLA's run than LSU not being able to stop their run game.
Nope, I think that's absolutely fair. So we didn't really talk about what players were starting here. I almost moved on without even really talking about that. So
yeah, Max Johnson and Keishawn.
Yeah, you got to start them.
I think that's really it. Unless, you can take a chance and say that week 1 DTR was a fluke, and then he'll play better this game. So I wouldn't be surprised.
I'd be starting DTR in this.
Yeah, he will be able to run a lot more, and because that secondary is going to be a little bit of a problem for him passing. So he definitely will rush a lot more. So yeah, I would start DTR as well too, but I don't think I would start. I
would put if you have Charbonnet or Britton Brown on your team, I would not hesitate. I wouldn't bemoan anybody for putting them in at a flex. I see no reason why not to just kind of put them in as upside guys. Because again, we're still not entirely sure how those carries are going to shake out going forward. Because again, Charbonnet had the better day last week, but he had far less carries. So was that a fluke? Was that just him getting lucky on the carries that he was getting? Or was it just something that we're going to see more and more of as the season goes on? So I think those guys are both worth putting there. Greg Dulcich, if UCLA is going to have a chance in this game, they have to get a passing game going, and I think Greg Dulcich is going to be a main part of that. So if you have him, I would absolutely start him in this game. Again, a high-scoring game. He's definitely going to be a red zone threat if they get down there close. So, yeah. I think, DTR, Dulcich, Brown, or Charbonnet as flex options. I wouldn't use them as like your main guys. If they're one of your main guys, you might be in trouble for this week. And then on LSU side, again, I agree with you. Really, the only solidified positions are Max Johnson and Keishawn Butte, and those are the guys I would count on. Yeah. So, move on to our 9th and final game here. And this is actually the highest over-under of the week. It is an over-under of 75.5. And that is going to be Louisville at Ole Miss. This is the Monday night game at 8 p.m. This is going to be a game that decides decides fantasy games this week. This is going to be a game where you have guys where your opponent is ahead by 20, 30 points, but you got Matt Corral sitting on that bench. You got Malik Cunningham sitting right there, ready to go. You got Jalen Mitchell in there as a possible guy. You got Braylon Sanders sitting there. These are going to be this is going to be a game that people are going to be biting their nails on at the end of the night. So Xavier, who are you looking for in this game, and who should be started in this game?
I'll say Matt Corral and Jalen Mitchell. That's the only two I can say. I know it's surprising. With Ole Miss wide receiver. I know it's surprising with Ole Miss wide receivers, but we don't know who's going to be that number one.
Not even Jerry and Ely?
I completely forgot about
There
Ely.
we go. There we go.
There we go. No, definitely Ely. I completely forgot about Ely. It's just every time I think of Ole Miss, I just think about Lane Kiffin and just aerating it out. And I always forget they have a good running back that can also go in the slot and catch out of the backfield and really run hard. So yeah, Ely as well too. So 3 names, but I can't choose a wide receiver. I don't believe in Malik Cunningham anymore. I don't think he has the.
You got burned by him too many times last year.
I did.
But that was him going up against good defenses. You're going up against Ole Miss's defense here, man. You got to imagine he runs wild with this Ole Miss defense.
Nah, I just don't see it. Well, I can imagine him running wild, but I don't imagine him throwing well. I don't see him having the receivers that he had last year, and it's just, I just don't see Malik Cunningham as a good quarterback anymore. I feel like he's just DTR light, which is not bad, but if your opponent has a better, if they're up by 20 or 30 points, Malik Cunningham is most likely the one to let you down.
See, this is again where I'm going to hardcore disagree with you because, again, one of the things I've been banging the drum on with Dustin Crum, is you have to get a quarterback who has an easy start to their schedule. And one of the names I keep telling people, if you're going to grab Dustin Crum, grab somebody like Malik Cunningham, who, while Dustin Crum's off dying against Texas A&M, you got Malik Cunningham over here facing against a pitiful Ole Miss defense. And I mean pitiful. Again, you're right. He's losing a lot of receiving options. We're not entirely sure who those options are going to be. But even at the same time, he's got his legs still. He's got his tight end, Marshawn Ford, still there. And honestly, I'm going to put Marshawn Ford out here as a guy you could possibly start this week. Again, this is going to be a high-scoring game. So many people are going to get touchdowns out of this game. I see no reason why not to just take a flyer on a guy or two if you are in trouble. If you're stuck at receiver, why not throw in Braylon Sanders? Why not throw in Ontario Drummond? Why not throw in John Rice Plumlee if you believe that? If you're struggling at quarterback, if Malik Cunningham is for some reason available on your waiver wires, why the hell not pick him up and just start him against a pitiful Ole Miss defense? Just see what happens. Marshawn Ford is struggling at tight end. This is a streaming tight end if I've ever seen one. And again, this is just 2 dual threat quarterbacks with plenty of options of weapons going up against 2 pitiful defenses. I don't see how you can really lose in this game that much.
We'll see. I think Ole Miss blows Louisville out the water. I don't think it's going to be as close as people think.
Let me see what the spread is on this game. Let me see. All right, the spread is Ole Miss minus 10. So you have it right that Ole Miss is expected to win, but honestly, again, these teams are going to score so many points.
We'll see. I really don't believe in that Louisville team anymore as much as I did last year and the year before.
I think it's just because you got burned.
Nah, it's too much that they lost, and yeah, I got burned, and the fact that I did get burned, it's just Malik Cunningham. I still would if I got Malik Cunningham late, then I'd understand, but no. I wouldn't take that chance.
This is again, but if you got him late, this is the game to start him in, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, those are all the over/under games. Those are the games where if you're just struggling to pick somebody, you're trying to decide between, I don't know, let's see, what's the game we talked about earlier? If you have Jahan Dotson or Chris Olave, and you're just oh god, who do I start? These guys are relatively similar in my rankings. It's okay, I'm gonna go Chris Olave because that team's expected to score more this week. These are the games where this is the list of games right here that I think you could just go to and say, all right, this is if all else fails, these games are expected to have a lot of scoring opportunities. So with all that being said, that really concludes our week 1 preview. I know we said we were going to try to keep these about an hour, but guess what? I'm a liar, y'all. And so we went on a little bit longer than we really, a lot of bit longer than we typically will with these previews and everything. A lot of it has to do with the fact that we got all these depth chart news and everything today. So we had to run through all that real quick, and we got a lot of great games this week. So next week, we'll probably cut it down just a little bit more, but even still, great weekend of football ahead of us. Very excited about it. I'm sure all of y'all who know that we're Georgia fans are going to be tweeting at us during that entire game, no matter if it's going well or going badly for us. You know how it is. So, again, I'm looking forward to this first week of college football. Xavier, what do you got to say?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this first week. It's going to be a great week, a lot of great games. Make sure you tune in for our Kings Classic show. Should be probably around on Wednesday. Because our first game is on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. We have who's our first? Oh yeah, we have Ohio State. We have Ohio State. We have Garrett Wilson, I believe, and CJ. So we'll definitely get that out for us to discuss who we're going to start. Some waiver wire pickups we've made. But yeah, it's finally here. We're back in the season. We're ready for the grind, the ups and downs. So we look forward to interacting with you all, and we can't wait. And see y'all next episode.
Alrighty. Y'all don't forget to make sure you subscribe to the channel. Please leave some comments and likes down below. It is great interacting with y'all down there in the comments when you can. So please, if you have any thoughts, just leave them right down there. We'll be right here to answer any questions you might have. If you want to get us on Twitter, I am at CFF_Jared. He is CFF_Xavier. And those are the main places you can get us. If you're on the Discord with the CFF side, I'm on there constantly. So if you ever want to ask me a question, I'm right there. I'm trying to think of anything else really to say here. But yeah, y'all, the season's here, fully here, and we can't wait for this to get started. So y'all have a fantastic day, and we will see you next time.